the bus.
All right, good people, we're back here for another the BMF documentary, Blowing Money Fast, episode 5, going right to Club Chaos. It's titled Club Chaos, but that's certainly where we're going. And I got a lot of questions for you, like while we get into tonight's episode. I got a lot of questions because you the old head.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can take 4 off and stretch a brick out that way. Granted, you could do it. Oh, was that the question?
and the Rico case is getting stronger.
I swear, Burke is listening right on the wire that they was listening to in this episode. Like, what did he say this time? Oh man, we got him.
My first thing is, was Diddy really in Atlanta like that?
Yes, but most New Yorkers. Here's the thing. I think most people who are in Atlanta know this for a fact. A hell of a lot of New Yorkers are in Atlanta, and they migrated to Atlanta. Like, Atlanta has Queens Day.
Yeah.
Queens New York Day in Atlanta. That should tell you just how many people there. So yeah, back then, a lot of people migrated to Atlanta. It was a lot of people had production houses down there. All of that stuff was at that time.
Okay.
So it's not unaccustomed that this is the early 2000s that Puff would have really been down there. Yeah. This is around the time where he developed a relationship with Block, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then they got the Block Entertainment, all that other stuff. Bad Boy South, all that other stuff kicking in.
That's right.
It's because he was down there, so it was because he was down there so much. That's why.
Yeah. Because when they was trying to kind of lay the table in terms of what era we was in. First of all, the Snap era, never knew that was a thing. I knew about the Crunk era, but I never knew there was ever a bit of that called the Snap era.
Yeah.
I know about the songs and the dances, but I never actually.
Yeah, that was a whole era.
I never knew they classified that. That's just wild to me. That's just wild to me. It's so wild thinking back into these eras though, because when they mentioned Meech had I'm about to say King of Diamonds, when he had Magic City Mondays on lock, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know about this period. But this is obviously before it actually is the same period as Live as well too.
Yeah.
But to think that you were going to who were they playing?
Controlling shit at that point in time, Joe. Meech is controlling everything. Again, he came down there at the time where Atlanta became Atlanta.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is contributed to the way Meech's lifestyle was. Again, he wanted to be bigger than life.
Yeah.
And it led to a city at that time that was trying to be bigger than life.
Yeah. Yeah.
All recovering from the bombing, the 96 Olympics, they was going in full stride to recover from that.
That's right. Yeah, but this episode focuses on the night that changed everything in Club Chaos, which we talked a little bit about last week. But yeah, the state of Atlanta is, like you said, this is really when Atlanta really got on the map for a lot of reasons. A destination area for Black entrepreneurs and artists and so on. Entertainment. This became Black Hollywood essentially. So all the big names were in this area, and it sounds like an exaggeration, but to party 21 straight days, absolutely possible. Dude, absolutely possible.
Well, I mean, ain't much I can say about it. But yeah. Again, it was the 21 straight days with no sleep.
Yeah.
And partying like that. Anyone tell you go a couple days without sleep, it feels like you're drunk.
2 days for me.
21 days without sleep?
Yeah, impossible. All the Adderall in the world.
Exactly.
Coke and Adderall. But yeah.
Exactly.
So we're establishing at this point now, Meech is who he wants to be. He is the Black Pablo Escobar. That's what he thought he was, and he was hanging with Diddy. He was hanging with all the top artists. He saw him in. Matter of fact, I just realized Fabulous is just down here in Atlanta, just all willy nilly.
But everybody from New York, Atlanta, that was the place to be. I think it's kind of hard to think about it because I think people think about it now as like the place to be. But they didn't understand that early 2000s migration to Atlanta is to the point where if you talk to niggas in Atlanta, how many of them are actually from Atlanta? It's like DC used to be. Like if you met somebody in DC, be like, you grew up here, you were born. Nigga, where did they make you? Same thing with Atlanta right now. Like, y'all from here, or like y'all didn't come down here? That's that part of that migration to Atlanta.
Yeah. And I mean, like, obviously, you know, there was emphasis on the West Coast, East Coast rivalry and how Wolf played the part in all of that. And it seems like gotta talk about that guy. Seems like Atlanta was like the at times you could call it like the safe zone where everybody could just go. I don't know if a lot of people from the West went there. Didn't seem like it. No, but you had people from the South. Nelly was there, so you know, you got folks from the the Midwest, I guess. Yeah, and then Meech and them. Yeah, so
everybody knew Meech. Everybody wanted to migrate to Atlanta, but the West Coast wasn't. Nah.
Yeah.
That's still what they think. They more migrated to like Houston if they were going to go that far. They ain't coming to Atlanta though. Like nah, that was still off limits.
Yeah,
especially in that time period for a lot of folks from the West Coast.
Yeah, but BMF was coast to coast. As we've seen, they were not just Atlanta and Detroit, but obviously LA and all these other little smaller but big cities on the way as they showed on the map. To kind of throw it to you, you know, we were counting the events of Club Chaos, and Yogi, the assistant, was right there. I imagine just getting a job by saying you could clean to now you're in the club, you just witnessing everything, and you got Cavario, his friend as well too, also recounting everything that happened that night. The night of where Anthony Wolf Jones, former security guard of Diddy, sees his ex-girlfriend in the club, and he just decided he wanted do people know what a smooch is? Not a kiss, right? I mean, I know, right? Smooch. But do people? Yeah, but in case you don't know,
well, I'm about to say, it's a lot of youngins. Okay.
Yeah.
A smooch is a mush. Is all of that. It's the same thing. Like if somebody says a smooch, they definitely not talking about a kiss.
Yeah, just making sure.
That's disrespectful, Joe.
Yeah, but he face palms her, aka a smooch.
Yep.
And Meech wasn't feeling that, as they say. You know, Meech is about the good energy, but also Meech wants everything about him. Let's never forget that in every scenario. Like the fact that there's a confrontation going on, and that starts to take things away from the sort of the aurora he's trying to build around him being the focal point, having all the bottles, juries, all that other good stuff. But at the same time, too, Meech was a person that just was all about like family and like the fact that you out here get ready to disrespect this girl and let you know what it is and so on. So that led from one thing to the next. And I throw it to you. Did they leave anything out in the story? That's what I kept thinking the entire time.
Not of the murder and not of the altercation. More about Wolf and just classifying him as Puffy's bodyguard. Like Wolf was like one of those dudes growing up in New York that lots of people knew. And him and Puff, it was more than just a bodyguard type of relationship. Like him and Puff was best friends. Like that wasn't just his bodyguard. That was his boy. That was his boy that stood trial with him. If folks remember, like it was him and Wolf and Shine on trial for that shooting. It was just, like I didn't like the point that they just labeled him as, Puff's bodyguard. And I'm like, wow, that's disrespectful. That's all you label that man. Because if you knew more of the history, I do like the point that they brought up about the altercation between him and Suge's bodyguard, and let you take from that what you must. I did not like the correlation that he may single-handedly started that equal. No. He come on now. We're not gonna act like the two people that everyone know the most wasn't. Wolf was that guy who people all the time when Suge would say, y'all think Puff a nice dude. Puff will murder everybody humanly possible, and not just in a song if need be. Like Wolf is one of those people why people thought that way about Puff. So again, I didn't like the point of just labeling him as a bodyguard. I thought that was disrespectful. I thought that, and also again, it leads more credence to the story that Wolf would react that way.
Yeah.
Because while Meech is a big dog, you would know that Wolf would think I'm one too.
Yeah.
And if I don't want this broad nowhere near me, you know how the 90s was. I mean, my early 2000s, you know how, unfortunately, how folks treated women. Smooch your ass out the way, man. Get your punk ass out. Like, that's the type of stuff that happened. So again, I would have liked a little bit more of the laying out who he was, and then how these two forces get together. Because other than that, it just makes it sound like a random guy just walked up and decided to start shooting at Meech. It's like, no,
yeah,
it ain't never that simple.
I got a feeling like next episode they're gonna come back to it, because this is kind of what the documentary has been doing. It's kind of like almost like an overlapping of points of the story where, we got a lot about the law enforcement last episode, and then we got a lot about what was happening in this night, and then we went back to the law enforcement aspect of it again, and them kind of recanting a lot of the things they had already talked about. So I would imagine that they're going to do probably some more overlapping in terms of who he was, especially the fact that like we're left off at the point that he is being charged with a double murder. He's on house arrest right now. Definitely on his best Pablo Escobar in the White House. they made sure they drew that correlation. But talking about that night though, I mean, because I know this was a really pivotal night, but like the way how they laid it out really kind of changed my mind about something. And when all this went down and Meech gets charged, and we'll talk about the interrogation room in a second, I guess if this had been T, absolutely, like, yeah, that makes sense. But I never would have guessed or thought that Meech was a person that would try to bring the heat on him because he knew he was going to get off, because he knew he didn't did that. It seems like a seamless tactic, but when you are the boss, you almost, at least in other situations, you almost are never in the room. You're never that guy. It's instantly like hey, it's him, and that's what it is. But it kind of was like no, I want you to make you think it's me, because then I'm gonna make sure I get off. And it's just a really interesting what was sort of your thoughts about the training events with this?
I was like, that don't. Again, it just doesn't sound like something. Who would want to even take the risk?
Yeah.
I mean, cops ain't never been the most honest of people. So you think I'm gonna be like, yeah, it wasn't me, and we could sprinkle a little something on you. We can make sure it's you. Like, again, I don't know if that was his actual intention, or if that's just what ended up happening. Yeah. Like, because other than that, that's a lot of heat to bring on yourself for no reason.
Yeah.
Because again, we've always looked at Meech as someone, an intelligent brother who would understand like the moves that can be made after things happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you think you're just going to get off and do that, and they're not going to put the biggest Batman signal on you and your organization all of a sudden, it wouldn't, like, it didn't make sense for them to say it that way. Maybe it was just happenstance that happened that way.
Yeah.
And Meech knew he was innocent, of course, but still, I don't know. That didn't really make much sense to me.
It starts to make me wonder, like, was he really that obsessed with the spotlight at the point that, like, he knew this would just make him be more popular, more visible? That's like,
I can see that
development here.
Hey, that spotlight is stronger than any drug he's ever been associated with.
Yeah. Like,
people don't understand. We see it now. Look at where we're at now with the way people and what they do for attention. Like, back then, like, he's the man. And if I'm the man and I need to keep up this bravado of who I am and a flashy lifestyle, and I need all eyes on me, maybe that was the case. Maybe he looked at it that way.
Yeah.
I beat a murder charge, man. I'm really the man now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the accolades just start to pile up here. I mean, you get the house arrest in the big mansion, you get the high profile double murder, you beat it. You know, you acted an ass in the interrogation room. I never heard that he peed in the corner and they asked him to sit down. And he said, "Are you fucking serious?" And they made him. He laid on the table. Funny. That's got. There needs to be There's definitely footage of it.
Oh,
it needs to be shown.
Yeah. But again, that's the ego part coming out, though.
Yeah.
It's more of that. We've seen it all the time. That you're talking to. Do you know who I am? Like that type of attitude. Just it lets you know just at that point in time what his focus was on.
Yeah. I think it's easy for us to focus this conversation on members of BMF and Meech and T. But like, I also realized something about like the law enforcement and authority in this. They said, and I mean, I know it sounds a little bit silly now, but y'all have to understand back then, the media was the most powerful thing in all of the world. And I mean, it does have a very important aspect in terms of things now, but understanding how media was then and the fact that with everything that was happening, this really high profile case and everything that's coming out about it and whatnot, take that all away. Just focus on the aspect that they said that this made law enforcement look silly. They were clowns over and over and over. They were being exploited for the mistakes they made. This makes me wonder too now. I mean, because there's a lot to be taken with that. And hopefully we get more of that story because like as we see the folks that was attached to this, everyone is coming in like rock stars because they got their guy. Obviously, Meech is in jail, so they got what they wanted.
All happy. The biggest man in the room all of a sudden, Joe.
But
when they got my brother walking in that joint slick, walking, he's the coolest cop ever. I'm like, you don't get the fuck out of here with this.
I was looking for his Bluetooth. I was like, I know that brother got one in his ear, the one that just sits on the side.
If he ain't got the Bluetooth with the mic in front of it, he got them the little headphone jumps with the two that go in his ear. You know he gets one of them.
I was just waiting for that. But you gotta think because they took a shot to the public opinion about their work that at some point we see them now becoming even more motivated, but potentially to the point to be overzealous about what they're trying to do. That's going to change everything. I mean, it never helps for me for him to be the person he is, to continuously want to be visible and flashy and whatnot. Obviously, between that and cell phones has been the demise of a lot of folks. But now that the fact that something that you didn't account for, the media has made law enforcement look bad, and so now they're like, oh yeah. See, now we got to turn up in a way that we hadn't before. So like seeing these sort of both of these, the good and the bad here, kind of seeing these stories start to develop in this episode is really interesting. And I never really. A lot of the detail in this episode I wasn't really familiar with in terms of just how pivotal certain things were. But like I thought that was like a big point in terms of almost exposing law enforcement to saying they did a terrible job. It wasn't even nothing to worry about. And for the defense, they did a terrible job. Back
then, the media was everything. I mean, I know it's hard to imagine now. Even when I think back on just how powerful it is, it's still like kind of a glimmer of like remembering like, man, there was no timeline, there was no Instagram feed, there was no Facebook feed. All your news came from the media. That's it. And they shaped it however they wanted, and whatever way they shaped it, that's what everybody believed. So if every news outlet is saying they're horrible, they're doing a terrible job, look at them, they're just embarrassed. That means that's everywhere humanly possible. That means when they pick up a newspaper, a newspaper is this thing that we used to pick up to read and tell us what's going on in the day. So when they pick up a newspaper and you're reading about how bad your job is, like it creates zealous cops that's willing to do whatever they can to take you down. And boy, when you have Tony Montana right in front of you, being as flashy as humanly possible, while we have all this bad stuff being said about us, you become the perfect target.
So that night, Meech was not the shooter. Didn't see no gun residue on his hand. It is to be determined who did. I think that's true. Wait, do we know? It doesn't matter,
Nope.
but it wasn't shown in this.
No, the case is still open, actually.
Okay, that makes sense. That's why we'll have put my shit. Of course, if a black man is shot in a tragic murder, the case is still open. It's cold.
Case is still open. Well, you already know it's still open because they want to piece it together to Meech or BMF. They still to this day they still want to piece that to them, and they can't.
Season 2,
self-defense.
Hip Hop Homicide. Yeah, self-defense. Which, as I mentioned last episode, that word's gonna be so surprisingly it was not mentioned at all. But you can see that it's interesting because he's been charged, and it looks like they don't have anything to win that case. But for that case to turn into self-defense, that is a completely egotistical move. It's very important that we'll talk obviously more about that next week, but like understanding that the cops said we have nothing on him. We basically have a witness saying that somebody laid on his body when he was on the ground. He was shot. We don't have no gun residue, so it wasn't him. And we also have a witness saying that they thought they identified him, but they got this other guy in Bull who looks just like him.
Come on, man. Like, but now you see why they were looked at as fools.
Yeah.
How do we even get to the point of arresting him? That's the first thing you say is no gunpowder residue. Wait a minute. Yeah. So clearly you never actually fired a gun. Gunpowder residue ain't something you can just wash off your hands and that be it. It's not that simple. Nor did he have the time to do that. So once I don't find it, what the hell am I holding you for? So you wanted to make an example out of him. You wanted to push it on him. And in turn, it was a double homicide. And the judge gave him a $50,000 bond. Do you know how disrespectful that is? That's literally the judge telling you, I don't believe anything you're saying. I'm gonna give him $50,000 for this double homicide charge. Like, come on, man. But again, that's what they did. They wanted to piece it on him at all costs.
Yeah.
In all honesty, all of this is their whole investigation is to get one man.
Yeah.
And when you learn later on in the episode, they literally established who's the actual person running the organization. And they were like, yeah, we got enough of him, but we want him. Like that's crazy to even think of it like that.
Their little ego hurt because of that billboard. That's what it all comes down to.
That's all it is, man. Across the street from their office.
Oh man. But yeah, they said that Meech, and much like I said earlier, all of this is because he's playing diversion. And to me, I'm not gonna go with that. I'm gonna be at peace with saying like this is nothing but a sort of, it's not even a power play, it's an egotistical play. This is all about self here, and he wants to just have that plaque on the wall saying he beat a double murder, and he won't be the first to have done that in Atlanta at that. So shout out to my man Soulja Boy.
Oh man.
Hey, listen, put some respect on my man Soulja Boy. Hey, we talked about the Snap era, right? Shouldn't Soulja Boy being named here?
I would assume he would be in that era. I don't know what you was a kid when Soulja Boy came. That's how old I am. Okay, I was not a kid when Soulja Boy came out. I was like, who's this little youngin? And the dancing and all that other stuff. Like, I was in my 20s when Soulja Boy came out. So
This man Meech saying that balling is not a crime. I had to rewind that. I know he didn't say that, did he? My man Focus is this way just. I don't. I can't lie,
shows,
man. Yeah,
it shows how much I want to be the man. You can't be mad at me because I'm balling. Like,
yeah. Listen, my aspirations were not that high. I just wanted a whole bunch of Michelin Ness jerseys. So that's as far as the fame I wanted.
Wow.
And that throwback jersey days were definitely lit, as we've seen all through this episode. Everybody was, I seen some I haven't even seen before in this episode. And just know, like when it came down to it, that's all I wanted. I ain't want the jewelry. I just wanted to throw back the Michelin. I wanted all of them. All of them. I might wear one next week.
Was so nasty between the jerseys and the oversized pants, and I don't know what the fuck we were thinking, Joe.
Man,
and then Jay-Z made a switch up to oversized button-up shirts.
Terrible time.
Terrible time.
Can't even believe I owned the 3X. That's
sick as shit.
Yeah.
Because the 1X will be big on you. A 3X?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What a wild time.
I hit all my pictures at that time period. You will never see that shit, Shawty. No, under no circumstances.
What a wild time. But I'm
dressed like a businessman going to the club. No, sir.
The other really big focus of this episode was that Terry and Meech and their differences. And obviously we knew this was going to come, but how it came about. And it's a lot of different things. Obviously, T is in LA running shop. He's the businessman, and Meech is the flashy face. He always wants to be in the spotlight. So they have sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Psychology differences and philosophy differences on how to operate BMF. But they're so far apart. They're aware of each other, but it's peaceful. Sometimes you got to be like that. Especially, I can imagine siblings is like that. Like, I love you from a distance. And we split everything in half, as he said. But I mean, at least Meech thought they were.
I'm about to say Meech thought they were splitting everything.
Because there was a half and a half of your half kind of going nowhere.
It's the old adage from the late great Biggie Smalls. Blood and money don't mix like two with no find yourself in serious shit. Like it's the same story. Like how is it ever going to work? Because eventually one is going to want to be bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to say their philosophies were different. I think it got to the extent that Terry got to the point of saying, man, I don't like that you get all the attention.
Do you think it was that? Or do you think he was just trying to say like, hey man, you doing all that? Let me check you real quick. Let me see if you're on top of your stuff, because you would easily know if I was skimming if you were on top of your game, which is a really big thing in every organization operation.
Well, that part could be it, but I also think it plays a part that Terry just, again, he sees everybody gravitates towards Meech. How would it feel that everybody gravitates towards him and you feel like you're the actual person behind this organization? Why don't I get the same love and respect from everyone that Meech does? Yeah. It could be that simple. It happened again. They're brothers. I mean, brothers get jealous of each other. It happens. Yeah. It is what it is. It's no big deal. They'll get over it. Brothers get over it. But that don't mean for a moment you can't have that moment of weakness to get jealous of your brother.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think that not only is it a level of jealousy, but it's just a level of like him just being sick and tired of the fame and the popularity being in the spotlight, that's blowing the cover to the point that he's just like, man, you're acting reckless. And it goes to my next point when we start to get to the wiretap and whatnot. And all of them loving the wires is completely hilarious to me. But like the fact that they said that they called Terry voice on there, and I don't think that they tried to label it like Terry was slipping. But I realized that Terry realized that he had to run operations on both coasts because Meech was not. He couldn't and he wasn't. So he had to make the calls. And I think it's a liability about the two different crews here. Is that the East Coast or down South crew were partying and they were just slipping over there. As they say, they wasn't bringing any money in. It was just all constantly outpour of money. Now Meech, their head guy, can't run operations. So you got all these folks just kind of scrambling. And T, who is the boss, assumes the duty of the South now. And they have never had to be accountable this entire time. So he's forced to say like, all right, what y'all doing over there? What's the deal? All right, talk to you tomorrow. And that's why you got them doing knucklehead stuff. Stop calling me on this phone. So like, this wasn't, to me, T slacking or just not being on his piece of cues. It just was the level of him being a businessman and being in a situation that he should not have ever been in the first place.
It couldn't be T slacking because the heat wasn't brought on because of T's actions. Like,
yeah, well,
like he's again, he's trying to run this organization, so he's the one who has to communicate with everybody.
Yeah,
and then my brother's bringing a lot of attention on the organization. That's what brings the Wire into play.
Yeah,
and again, they said, well, they're talking in nicknames. That's to the extent, even a bigger extent, they didn't even know the full size of the organization until they raided the White House because of Meech, and they got the logs that belonged to Terry.
Yeah,
that's the problem right there. And again, it did come across a little bit like, well, Terry's talking on the Wire. It's like, not necessarily, but he's handling business.
Yeah,
but they not bringing up that is. I don't think they were saying it was Terry who was like part of the dudes who talking about, oh man, they're just hicks. They'll never catch on to us. With the episode of The Wire when they literally watched everybody dump all of their fun. I'm just confused how you watch a show like The Wire and not think of, wait a minute, maybe we need to switch up things just a little bit, because
dude, this is a reoccurring thing, just like
everything,
the Baltimore joint where dudes was like, man, I bet you they're tapping our phones. And he's
exactly.
Like, yeah. All right, well, we'll just stay on the phone. It's like,
exactly.
Bro, like,
and try to change the whole conversation. Again, that's the way it works, though. Oh man, that's hilarious when he said, "Oh man, they hicks. They don't got that technology down here. They're way more sophisticated in Baltimore." Like, come on, man.
Best compliment ever for that city.
Hey, I'm about to say, because
the state-of-the-art future of Baltimore, Maryland.
If anybody was in their organization from Baltimore, they'd have been like, "No, they're not."
like y'all are watching The Wire, so you're getting a depiction filmed on location. And you all are saying, "Oh yeah, they're way more technical, logical advanced than us." Solana, they wouldn't have that here. Come on now. Oh boy, man. It's not that you root for the drug dealers to win, but damn, you like at least make your falling legitimate. Why do we always gotta take L's from the dumbest things? Like,
not even just make your falling legitimate. Put up a fight. You in there like Sean Bay Mitchell. I need you to fight back. Fight back. Don't give them everything. But again, that's
my goodness.
When you're pulling this money fast, when you're getting attention fast, when you're becoming the man, a lot of things you let slip.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about it anymore. Your judgments become clouded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. Hey, all drug dealers fall, unfortunately. It always happens. Granted, there are some that did not fall and that are still living amazing lives. But majority of the big dogs, majority of them had a fall from grace.
Yeah.
It depends how you rebound from that fall from grace is one thing, but they do have that fall. If you want to be the man, if you want all the attention, it's the same analogy. If you want to wear the white fur coat to the fight, you're gonna get the unwanted attention.
Yep. Last thing in this episode is we go to T's birthday in 2004 in Vegas, and T's at the club. There's something different. And fine. He wants to celebrate and wants to make it about him. People coming in with the free meat shirt. T wasn't kind of feeling that. Because for whatever terminology they use, I'm just going to just modernize it. But they zoomed in Meech.
That's exactly what they did.
Here's what's funny.
Here's the technology of now.
Yeah,
they zoomed him in. Here's
what's funny. So you had some type of encrypted call from Meech from the West Coast, and you don't think they can wiretap?
Dude.
So y'all doing the Zoom technology in 2004.
You know the technology you had to have back then to do what Meech did and say, we put him on a big screen. But that's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's also nuts to even want to do that because it is to take the attention away. You're like, nigga, on your birthday, I'm the man. Like, that's so disrespectful.
They two wild brothers, man, and then
it's little brother big brother relationship is always weird. I got a big brother who is all of 28 days older than me, and I swear to God, he used to do shit like that just to prove that you're the older. Like, nigga, you barely older than me, but this again. And that's what did me say in the clip? He said, man, I don't know if Terry got to the point where he wanted to be the big brother, which he never could be. And it's like, there you go. That's the problem.
I two things I want to kind of end off on is as he said, then the two crews that kind of and they mentioned they said both the crews, so that's BMF in two parts here, and they stood up and people were holding their own against guns were drawn, and that's Meech's boys and or Meech's followers and T folk. And Terry's folks. So there's that. Mm-hmm. What's important about this, and we haven't kind of done this in a while, but to kind of draw the comparisons towards the series here is that remember that the series is really building Meech to be this person who was the family guy, who was doing to give back to his family. We hear from his mom saying that they kept us in the dark about everything. We kind of heard everything through the news. They supported them, even though they weren't. I don't think his parents were together then, but they both did show up because, that's what they do. But also understand that Meech's entire motivation is about the spotlight, beyond family, but everything is about the spotlight here. And so that motivation has gotten him into a lot of trouble. And it doesn't seem like there's any room, any point of where he's going to hit a cap and then he's just going to be done. We've seen that even with him being on house arrest, he needs attention. Mm-hmm. The billboard, the 21 nights at the club, and now it's not only affecting himself, but it's affecting BMF and it's affecting his relationship with his brother. And I guess we got to wait to see what level of remorse that he has for this, because at this point now, he's going to hear about the altercation of what happened with his brother in Vegas for the night that he thought he was doing something good, or maybe he thought he was going to do something to trigger some shit, So it is going to be interesting where they go forward with that.
It's weird the way both of them played it. Like, you heard before that, like the conversation that someone felt that Terry was at the point saying, like, get rid of him. He's too big of a problem.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Or the flip side is like, fuck T. We ain't getting nothing from. We're not getting anything from him anymore. But T represents the organization that both of you two are over. Like, it is very weird. It's like an NWO when it broke up from the regular NWO
and the Wolfpack.
Yeah, like it's that same type of separation where it just became so big.
Yeah,
that it became a power struggle at the top. Yeah. It's just weirder because this power struggle is between two brothers.
Yeah.
And again, it could be as simple as both of them possibly admitting we let other people from the outside get into our head too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they sense like we had an issue with one another, they picked at it.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. They pick at it. And we're not communicating because we ain't on the best of terms, because I'm mad at you because of the way you acted. You mad at me because I was skimming off your brick. But I only did it, possibly as you said, to get your attention, that I actually was able to do it for so long and you never even noticed it. To show that you slipping on business. It could be just that simple, but then it could just lead to two brothers feeling like, this ain't big enough for the both of us.
Last thing, we have 3 more episodes to go. Mm-hmm. Do you think we're going to get a T appearance in this?
We got to.
It's got to. It's building up to it. It's building up to it. It feels like it's gonna be major.
I think it's gonna be the last episode.
Yeah,
you gotta have T on here. You got to, man. It's no way in hell you don't.
Yeah.
And even if you look at some of the stuff on the background, I think like him visiting the set of BMF and things of this nature, and like clearly he knows about all this stuff. How the hell would you do a documentary and you have Meech talking and you're not gonna interview T? But again, it shows the difference between them two.
Yeah.
Meech behind bars.
having
Meech
the time of
talking
his
through
life.
this whole thing. You ain't heard a word from T yet.
Yeah.
When people think of BMF, who do you think of? I think I'm Big Meech.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one says I think I'm Southwest T. Does not happen.
Not at all.
But then you hear this doc, and it makes you, for people who didn't know, it kind of points that, yeah, T kind of ran the whole organization. Meech was the guy out front.
Yeah.
You knew who Meech was because Meech wanted you to know who he was.
Yeah. Yep. Well, folks, we got 3 more episodes to go. That is episode, I'm about to say 105, still the same day, but episode 5, yeah. Club Chaos. Yeah, let us know your thoughts about tonight's episode, things we covered, things we might have missed, things that stood out to you all, things that you want to ask and have Lou expose himself about. I know y'all ask each and every week. That is waiting for. I heard somebody, one comment, somebody said, just tell us, Lou.
hey, yeah, never. Hey, man, but this episode was very like that borderline when you like, I could talk so much more about certain intricacies. He's like, yeah, we're not doing any of that. Why would we do that?
Yeah,
we just having fun. This is an amazing doc so far.
Yeah,
and building up an incredible amount of hype for season 2.
Yeah,
because you kind of see these things already pointed to in season 1, from when Terry gets the deal for distribution, and they didn't want Meech involved in it because Meech is too flashy. Like, you already see the groundwork being laid for this.
Yeah. It's interesting. We keep calling it a documentary, and I call it it's called a documentary. I call it a docuseries, but regardless of it, this has been beyond entertainment, beyond entertaining, and fits in all of the genres to me. It could just be a series because of just how good the dramatization is, and then the documentary because of actually the real true crime aspect of it. They're doing a fantastic job, and as you said, man, as we get close to BMF season 2, this is definitely bringing a lot of momentum with it. But yeah, and a lot of you all seems like you're loving it as well too. Have gotten and received a lot of feedback about your enjoyment of this. So yeah, share all that in the comments below. And then, as you all know by now, we're here each and every week until we get to the finale, and then right to that to BMF season 2 and all things in this 50-verse. So yeah, folks, jump in the comments, let us know your thoughts about it, and we'll see you back next week for episode 6.